Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 13 Steeler preview. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Jay Dash and the Big Easy. The Steelers are taking on the Colts this week. They are 6-5. Why are you looking at me funny?
I'm not looking at you. I was looking at Easy. My stomach hurts.
You need to eat some hamburger helper.
Double
Get
H.
We're giving a little promotion to Betty Crocker or whoever the hell makes that.
Walmart.
It's delicious.
Speaking of eating, I hope the Steelers eat this Indianapolis defense up like they did last season.
51 points last year.
51, something like that, man.
6 touchdowns for Big Ben.
Both offense and defense played very good games. I know the Colts scored some points in that game, but you remember
Garbage
Pittsburgh
time.
had a pick 6 as well in that game.
Last year don't mean much.
No, it doesn't. And especially since Andrew Luck isn't playing.
Right.
This is an interesting game to me. The Steelers have only beaten one team with a winning record as of right now. When we beat San Francisco, yes, they were 1-0. The Colts, they have beat the Titans, the Jaguars, the Texans when they were garbage early in the year. They did beat the Broncos at home recently, and they did beat the Falcons, who are garbage right now. And the Buccaneers are an up-and-coming team, but the Colts were at home, so you kind of expect them to win that football game. They don't scare me a lot, and I think this could be a good starting point for Pittsburgh if they can put it all together and start a run like they need to do to make the playoffs. The Colts team, Andrew Luck's out, Frank Gore's getting beat up, Ahmad Bradshaw just went on IR again. They had to get high on heroin from Buffalo's practice squad, I think it was.
Yeah, back to high on
3
heroin.
straight
Though.
years
It's nice
for
to see
Bradshaw.
heroin back in Indianapolis Colts uniform, but you and I have a bet going on here, man. Frank Gore, 181 carries so far, 657 rushing yards. He has 59.7 yards per game. He scored 4 TDs already, so he's been a pretty good running back this season. He did have 2 down games recently, and this is going to be a tough matchup for him going up against Pittsburgh, obviously. But is he going to get to that 1,000-yard mark, man?
It's going to be close. You have to average somewhere around almost 80 yards a game, don't you, to get there?
63, something like that.
Oh, yeah, 16 games.
Yeah.
It's going to be close, man. I don't know. This game
He
against
was
the Steelers,
on pace for it before these last 2 games.
Rawls ran pretty well on Pittsburgh last week, and Gore has a similar style, pretty much one cut and go. So you may be able to see it. And if they can expose the middle of the Steelers' defense, they could do it. For me, the biggest thing that the Seahawks did to the Steelers' defense is they spread them out real far like New England likes to do to us, and they forced our corners in our defense, who predominantly is zone coverage, to spread out so far that they were out of their actual zones where they needed to be, and then it was almost like man-on-man in these little zones, and the Steelers can't tackle very well as far as their defensive backs go. So I think the Seahawks really exposed the Steelers' defense that way, and the Colts have the personnel to do it. Can they do it is the question. But they have enough receivers that they can try to do it. Not that they're all having great years, but they're the right skill set. And if Frank Gore can get going up the middle, I mean, if you have 4 wides and you spread us out thin, our D-line plays great, but they also don't rotate well, so they will get tired.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton obviously still the number 1 wide receiver out there. I know we're saying he didn't have the type of season that we expected from him, but he still has 819 yards and 5 touchdowns right now. So he's going to go over 1,000 yards this season, barring an injury or something like that. But Dante Moncrief, he is your situational starter this week, I believe. He's had a good season so far. I mean, he started out real hot. Obviously, Andre Johnson wasn't what we thought he was going to be. So really, it's T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief for the 2 top receivers out there. And then they mix in Fleener and Dwayne Allen at tight end. Neither one of these tight ends has come up the way they wanted them to this season. They thought both of these guys could have big seasons. In fact, they were both pretty good last season, you remember. Dwayne Allen was scoring a touchdown every week for the first 10 weeks of the season pretty much. I know he went down with an injury or whatever. Kobe Fleener, I mean, I really don't like this guy. He's not really good at any aspect of the game, but he does come up with big plays. But Andrew Luck, he wasn't having the greatest season. Since Matt Hasselbeck came in, I mean, he's been getting it done. 7 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, has over 1,000 yards passing already in just 4 games, and he's 4-0 in that span. And I remember last season when Pittsburgh was going to face Indianapolis, everybody thought Indianapolis was going to blow them out, you remember. And Pittsburgh they went into Pittsburgh and lost that game. And Indy's playing good right now on the offensive side. But I think it's going to be the same thing. I just don't see him getting it done in this game. I think Matt Hasselbeck gets his first loss and doesn't have the greatest of game, the type of play he's been showing so far this season.
Why would that be? Because they're on the road, maybe, and conditions. It's going to be, what's the weather? I think it's going to be cold, rainy, maybe. Prime time, Sunday night.
Well,
he's almost 50, so yeah.
Yeah,
he's got to be starting to break down.
Well, his
right?
bedtime is probably 9 o'clock at night, so for him to have to start a game at 8:30, that's going to be hard.
His four starts, they've probably been all like 1 o'clock starts early in the. Now he has to come on the road, play prime time in the night, and have Debo staring at him. I mean, it's going to change a little bit, changes things.
Jim, you remember saying that the more Hasselbeck plays, the more likely he starts to break down and make some mistakes. And I believe that's going to be something that happens going into Pittsburgh, a tough place to play, obviously. And Frank Gore, he played for San Francisco last season. The only way they won was when Frank Gore ran the ball. And really, Frank Gore is a huge part of this offense this season. And you can see, like I said, he hasn't been as good the past 2 weeks. But I really don't think they're going to be able to run the ball in this game. So it's going to come down to Matt Hasselbeck, T.Y. Hilton, Moncrief, and those tight ends to come up with some big plays. Maybe Andre Johnson, who knows. But it's going to have to be by the pass. And I can't trust Matt Hasselbeck at this point to be the type of guy that goes out and wins with a one-dimensional offense.
Well, I'll tell you what will happen. The Colts will complete the longest play of the year from scrimmage against us.
Matt Hasselbeck run up the middle.
Or whatever.
Like Terrell Pryor.
Because every week, no matter who we play, the opposing team always has the longest play of the year against them. So I'm going to venture to say Frank Gore has a 65-yard rush. And I bet you that's my bold prediction.
Big run, huh?
Yeah. I think
so does he get over 100 yards, or does he still stay under 100 even though he has that big run?
Under 100 with a big run.
I could definitely see something like that happening. We'll have to see if the Steelers' defense can get to Matt Hasselbeck as well. He's been sacked 8 times in 4 games, so just 2 a game. I'd like to see them get over that. I mean, 2 sacks in a game isn't that great. I think that's what they had last week, and you can see it really wasn't a factor. You got to get to him at least 3-4 times in this game and really make it hard on him, because if they can shut down this running game of Frank Gore, really the way they need to win, I believe, is to run the ball. But if you put pressure on Matt Hasselbeck too, then you're going to see those mistakes that we thought we would have seen from him already, but he just hasn't made yet.
Well, Hasselbeck, he likes to get rid of the ball quick. He's an efficient guy. He's not looking to stretch the field as much as Andrew Luck. Luck sometimes would try to press to make the big play, I feel, instead of just trying to make the safe play. So I think that's what's kept Hasselbeck upright. Now, if you can get quick pressure up the middle on the guy and don't let him have clear passing lanes, I think that's going to be an easier way to beat him. He's not an overly tall guy. I think he's only somewhere around 6'2", maybe 6'3". So the Steelers can have success that way, but are they going to have their complete linebacking core in the game? We know Ryan Shazier is in concussion protocol right now and may not play. Sean Spence is nursing a hamstring injury. Debo is coming back off of an injury, so we'll have to see how effective he can be. Bud Dupree did get his first start, though, and I thought he played promising, but we need that up-the-middle pressure, and with 2 middle linebackers possibly out for the game, that could be tough.
Yeah, and obviously if Antoine Blake's in there, hopefully we see a little bit more of Brandon Boykin, like you were saying in the recap of that Seahawks game.
Well, listen, Tomlin said in his press conference that Boykin could get a look this week, or they may try to move Willie Gay outside. It's kind of one or the other. He said he likes Boykin. He's been a smart player in the NFL. He knows what he's supposed to do.
Can't like him that much.
But we'll see. He said he's distinguished himself as an inside corner only. And with Willie Gay playing so well there's no opportunity for Boykin to get into the game. Whether you buy that or not, nope. I don't, I'm not saying it's absolutely true. But that's what they're trying to say now. But this is about the 3rd, 4th, or 5th story that they've had or reason why Boykin's not playing. If this is the true reason, I'll give him that. Okay, if he really has only proved that he could play inside, and Gay's playing well, you don't play him over Gay. But then you shouldn't have traded for him. You know what I mean? It was like a wasted
I mean, we got to get
trade.
Something out of him because of what we did trade for him. A lot of people say, oh, you just gave up, what was it, a 6th or a 5th?
I think it's a 5th or 4th, depending on how many snaps he plays.
So, yeah, all you gave up for him was a 5th-round pick. Well, the Steelers need every draft pick they have. If they're going to trade for someone that they do nothing with, then that's just another waste, because you see them waste their 3rd-round draft pick every season. So you need that 5th-round draft pick.
Please believe. Tomlin said he's less concerned about the yardage total the defense is giving up, and he was more concerned about the red zone and the 3rd down percentage for the Seahawks last week, so they need to shore that up. I think if they maybe moved Gay outside in place of Boykin, because we've seen Gay play well outside last year, and then start Boykin in the slot. If Boykin has shown he can play in the slot, and Gay has already proven he can play outside, at least for a short period of time, why not go for it? Because all Antoine Blake has shown this year, he has some speed and he plays aggressive, but he can't tackle, and the big hits just aren't coming right now. They didn't get any turnovers in this game. You'll find out when we go to our key to victories.
Does he have a pick six
the tail
this
of
season?
the turnover for the Steelers? Blake, yeah, remember he was loafing his way into the end zone and the ball almost got swatted out of his hand? So I'm not hating on Blake. He's just not playing at a high enough level for the Steelers team to win. They need turnovers, and they need to avoid the big play, and we've all seen him whiff on Doug Baldwin horribly on that 80-yard touchdown pass late in the Seahawks game. We can't have that. Hasselbeck or not, you can't spot the Colts' points. They got weapons.
And as for the offense, I mean, you can't turn the ball over like they did last week either. And you remember me saying that Seattle, they only had 4 interceptions on the season going into that game, had 4 in that game, so they doubled their total. Now, I know a couple of the interceptions were a little bit fluky with Antonio Brown falling down and whatever, but Indianapolis, they take full advantage of bad passes. They have 14 interceptions this season, led by Mike Adams with 5. So if Big Ben isn't on his game, they're going to make some plays in this game. And if it turns out like last week, that's when the Indianapolis Colts are going to beat you, when they only got to go 40 yards for a touchdown 5 times in the game.
The Colts turn the ball over a lot, because you said they have, 14 picks already this year?
Yeah.
They're a -5 in the turnover differential in the NFL.
Well, that's Andrew Luck, man.
Right, that's what I was just going to say. That was when Andrew Luck was pressing and throwing mad picks, so that stat is a little bit deceiving.
Frank Gore has 4 fumbles, too.
But the Steelers can get opportunities, and they will need to get a few turnovers to win. I mean, all these games that are coming up, man. The defense isn't good enough to go out there and dominate a game, really, and the offense is. So they cannot keep shortchanging the defense. The offense needs to take the reins, play a good, complete, efficient game, and then only allow the defense that bend but don't break, and then play well in the red zone and get a couple turnovers for the offense. But we actually had the ball longer than Seattle did. We had it for 32 minutes last week. They had it for 28. But it was all the quick 3-and-outs or the pick on the first play. It was putting the defense right back onto the field in that bad situation, which led to the big plays, which led to the Steelers' loss. So the offense just has to be efficient this week. And you got to run the ball more than 8 times. With
D'Angelo.
Yeah,
you're going to have to.
I mean, D'Angelo Williams, he's one of 5 running backs in the NFL with over 500 yards rushing, 200 yards receiving, and at least 5 touchdowns. I mean, he's in a class with Lamar Miller, LaShawn McCoy, Mark Ingram, and Devontae Freeman. That's a pretty good class. So you need to feature this guy a little bit more. And I know he had the 88 yards in the passing game last week, but still, use him to control the tempo of the game.
Yeah, you're going to have to run the ball. Look, Indianapolis's opponents average 4.2 yards per carry and have 9 touchdowns on the ground this season. But who's going to be in the red zone? Because, look, they let up 20 touchdowns in the passing game so far this season. That's a lot of passing touchdowns. Who's it going to be this week?
Jesse James, if he plays. I heard Mike Tomlin say that if he can't play, James will probably step into the starting lineup.
He better. I mean, that's what I'd have to believe would happen.
I'd like to see it.
Easy, is there a possibility Marcus Wheaton does what he did last week? He had over 200 yards, but is there a possibility this guy becomes maybe a guy you can expect 100 yards from every once in a while?
Why not? Because I didn't expect he would ever get 200 yards.
I didn't expect to get 30 yards.
So, yeah, hey, if he's, who knows about him? If he's working and continuing to improve, he'll be Young Money Junior, the third OG, then whatever they want to call him.
Do you think it's just something where since Antonio Brown couldn't break free from Sherman in that game and Martavis Bryant didn't have the biggest game that he had to go to Wheaton? Or is it the fact that Wheaton's actually stepping up and he can produce while Brown and Martavis Bryant both produce at the same time. Can all three of these receivers produce?
No team in the history of football has have all three receivers produce.
Colts had 3 1,000-yard receivers back in the day.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to have 1,000 yards from all
I never
three.
seen it.
Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and Brandon Stokely all had 1,000
Well, let me
yards.
ask you-
under
I don't
Peyton
remember.
Manning.
I'm just saying. I don't remember.
Let's say Antonio Brown, he'll get 1,600 yards in most seasons, most of his good seasons, and we'll say Bryant can be a 1,000-yard receiver too, maybe 1,100 yards. What would you expect out of Wheaton?
450.
450,
Yeah,
and
I'd say
that's
anywhere
good.
between 4 to 6.
See,
No, it's not good. It's just what the Pittsburgh Steelers number 3 wide receiver gets.
yeah, I mean you could say that. People this season were expecting 800 yards out of him. Is that asking too much?
And what were they expecting out of Heath?
Well, the same type of season he always has. Nowhere close to 1,000 yards.
That's where yardage goes. Yardage is going to go to Le'Veon and to your tight end also.
Well, I think Heath had almost 700 last year.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a 1,000-yard tight end
I
or
mean, I
anything,
would
but he
think-
always gets it done, and he's still getting it done this season.
When healthy, Le'Veon should have more receiving yardage than
Well, that's a part of
Marcus
it, too.
Wheaton.
You remember, Antonio Brown, he is one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in all football. So that's going to take away targets from everyone immediately. When you have a guy of his talent, it's harder for the third receiver to find targets. And then when you have a back that commands 8, 9, 10 targets a game as well, that's going to hurt as well. But we've seen Marcus Wheaton make some stupid mistakes as well. And I still want to upgrade him unless he shows that he can play like he did. He doesn't even need 100 yards. He could have 3 catches for 45 yards.
Get that third down catch.
Yeah,
Do
if
these
Brown's
things.
covered and he's open, just make that third down catch, maybe come up with a touchdown here and there. Just catch the targets that are thrown to you.
Yes.
And just have him as an option in the passing game. Because you've seen there's games where Ben just decides, you know what, I'm not even going to look his way anymore.
I think it's almost unrealistic for a Steeler fan to think you're going to get 800 to 1,000 yards out of a third wide receiver in our system. Because, okay, you said Brown would get 16. That's an average. And Bryant gets 11, so that's 27. If Heath gets his normal, we'll say 6, that's 33. And then, I mean, I know you're not always going to get 800 yards receiving out of your running back like we had out of Le'Veon Bell last year. But even if he gets 600, I mean, that's 3,900 yards. Ben's not going to pass for much more. I mean, he did have 5,000, I think, last year. But I just don't think it's realistic to think the Steelers, unless, they move away from throwing to the tight end, and use them more predominantly blocking and go into a 3 wide receiver set, then obviously that could happen. But I think they like to feature their tight end. They like that mismatch on the linebackers up the seam.
I'll tell you what, though, if you're going to throw 60 times a game, you better have a bunch of receivers getting 1,000 yards.
Somebody got to get it. Brown's going to
Carry the ball
2,000.
8 times. It's ridiculous.
I like that game plan, though. We almost won it because of it.
No, thank you.
Pete Carroll probably thought we were going to come out and do the same old thing we always do, run the ball, blah, 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 blah. We probably completely threw him off from that standpoint and just couldn't execute and turned the ball over.
Seattle's number
that's
one
how you
against the
lose.
pass, so it's a pretty bad game plan to target the number one passing defense
And they
with
fuck-
55 throws.
Yeah, well, it don't matter. They
They are
shredded
very
him.
good against the tight end. Though. So the
Roethlisberger
first
shredded
quarter
him.
there, when they were targeting Heath a ton, I was
he
like,
passed
maybe
for-
they got a game plan
He
here.
passed for 456 yards, man, but he only had 1 touchdown, and he threw 2 picks, and Landry threw 2 picks. So, I mean, I wouldn't consider that shredding them.
I would consider that the DBs being shredded last week.
No, not me, man.
Antonio Brown had less than 70 yards receiving. Martavis Bryant had less than 70 yards
They haven't given
receiving.
up that many yards as a core in
Ever.
how long? Ever.
I'm pretty sure it
that's
was
shredded.
the most passing yards by
How about
a
lightly
visiting
shredded?
quarterback at
Can we-
CenturyLink Field.
Can we say
I'm not saying it
lightly
was a
shredded?
bad performance by Roethlisberger. I'm just
Diced? Were they
saying that
diced?
the offense turned the ball over too many times to consider it shredding.
Well,
They
how
were
many
diced,
how many
man.
times was the Steelers defense shredded this season?
Every week.
Every week.
I mean, we were only giving up like 18 points a game going into this game.
You see his face.
Well, I mean, we've been talking up the Steelers defense all season long,
I
how
don't know.
well they've been doing. They kept everything under them. They stopped the run very well. I mean, they haven't let too many touchdowns to the receivers. They get beat by the tight end, don't get me wrong. But this past week, they did get beat by the receivers.
Listen, even after giving up 39 points, they're still only averaging 20.9 points scored against them for the year, so that's good.
I mean, the Steelers' defense has came up big this season. I know their corners have played above their level, really, but in the end, they do let up. You're thinking fantasy points. Big Ben had 400 yards passing. That's great and all, but you also turned the ball over 2 times, only had 1 touchdown, and you put the defense in bad situations. I really don't consider that shredding that defense. I consider the defense, they get beat by one of the elite quarterbacks, but they're coming up with big plays as well.
Well, they're the 30th ranked defense against the pass in the league, and it's actually pretty funny. I'm looking at the app right now, and they give up so many yards per game. It's like extended over into the words in the middle. The stat doesn't even fit on the thing. It's too big. That's how many yards they give up per game.
Indianapolis?
No, the Steelers. We give up 283.6 yards per game through the air. But, I mean, Indy gives up 272.8, so it's not like they're much better. It's going to be a shootout in this week. This is the week we should go in throwing the ball 50 times. I mean, I'm not saying don't run it, but if there was a week that would be your game plan, you would do it against the Colts, not the Seahawks.
No, yeah. That's what the smart man would do, but they try to deceive, so... And especially at home, throwing the ball at home.
Is Ben even going to play? I mean, he says he's not concussed. Tomlin says he is concussed. The doctors don't know if he's concussed. Nobody freaking knows if this dude's concussed. We all know poor Shazier is. The poor guy could barely get off the field. And then you got all these people on Twitter blasting him, telling him, saying the nastiest things to the poor guy because he got whacked in the head. I'm sorry, the guy got a concussion. It happens, man. And then all the moving the safety talk so you can get a concussion there and miss a game. Then where are we going to move him to? So any other injuries you want to complain about, I'm fine with those. Concussions, I don't like when people complain about that and call people injury prone. I don't like it.
He was cleared for practice.
Not yet. They're both still in concussion protocol. Ben was cleared for practice.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Shazier.
No.
But that doesn't mean
if
they're
Big Ben
cleared
doesn't
to play,
then I'm really worried because we've seen from Landry Jones, what do you have, 2 drives? Well, not even 2 drives. He had 1 play and then a drive, and he ended up with 2 picks.
I think Landry's proved less is more with this guy. The less we see him, the more we like him.
Yeah, I agree.
If he has to come in for some garbage time points, I'm good with it.
Is Jacoby Jones on the rise easy?
No.
We seen a decent week from him last week.
No, we did not.
What do you mean?
I love it. You missed it because we sat here. Whoa, I don't know. All I remember is one time he was running and he went. Whoop, whoop.
Oh yeah, he almost fumbled. I seen that too. We mentioned.
I think he might have been sitting here going, "Fumble the ball!" And we were just hating on him. No, he's worthless. He's garbage. He looks like he's ballet dancing out there. You don't ballet dance.
Bad.
Catch the ball and run straight fast as you can forward.
Well, look,
sick of it.
He did play well last week.
No,
actually.
he did not.
What do you mean? He had a 36. He returned.
He had one. Okay, that's not.
We had a 14-yard
well.
punt return.
That's Seattle dropping the ball on special teams.
Okay, I mean there was better blocking. You've seen it.
If Seattle's Seattle's DBs didn't get shredded, their special teams did.
Did
Richard
Jones. Sherman get shredded?
The whole team, they're not one. They're a collective bunch. They're
a unit.
They're a unit.
Legion of Boom.
Boom unit.
It was pretty much just all Marcus Wheaton doing the shredding.
I don't care if you give up historic yardage in the air at home and you got beat, you got shredded, you got beat down.
I'm sure they're not worried about it with the victory.
Yeah, 9-point victory feels pretty good.
Yeah, the victory is good, but they didn't win it. We lost it.
But back on the Colts here. Who's going to come up with the most receiving yards?
Back on Jacoby. Tell me why he's any good.
I'm not saying he's good. I just said he had a good week last week. I think he's garbage too. I'd rather have Dree Archer still, but if you don't want Dree Archer, I'd rather have someone else. I'd rather have Marcus Wheaton. Okay. Marcus Wheaton just showed he's a beast.
He didn't do bad last year.
We said Marcus Wheaton a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he didn't do bad last year doing it.
Let him run. Who cares?
Yeah, at least runs straight and catches it.
Jacoby Jones is not making an impact, no. Until he runs one back. And then I'm getting a double J jersey. I'll start tiptoeing around here.
Boswell.
So what's your
kick game? Yeah, stay solid, Boswell.
Which Indianapolis receiver is going to have the biggest game? Who are they going to have to worry about?
Whoever Antoine Blake is covering on that particular play. So if Blake stays on the left side of the field, whoever plays on that side, man, I'm telling you, Blake is losing it. He's getting worse as the year goes on. I think less is more with Blake, too. When he was your substitute corner or your slot corner or something, he played well because he didn't have to play every down, but he's getting exposed. When you spread everybody out and you force him to cover a bigger zone by himself, he can't do it.
I would have to believe it's going to be Dante Moncrief then. You'd figure T.Y. Hilton would be would be matched up against Cockrell. And then Andre Johnson goes on the inside now as well. He doesn't just line up on the outside every play anymore. And I really don't think he's a big factor anymore. We've seen him come up with the one big game against his former team. It was just a one-time thing. Andre Johnson's a beat nut. I think I'm gonna say the same thing. Dante Moncrief is gonna. I mean, we said it in the situational starter segment and everything. Dante Moncrief, he's the guy you're gonna have to worry about most in this game.
Have the Steelers been beat by a slot receiver this year? I don't remember a slot receiver having a big game against us.
Macklin, is he in the slot?
Edelman,
No.
was he in the slot?
Well, Edelman might play out of the slot, but he's still a number one guy. I'm just thinking, like earlier we were talking about Willie Gay and the
really,
corner position. If Willie Gay is shutting everybody's receiver down in the slot, how many games we got left? 5 games in the regular season? Move the dude outside and let Boykin try. Can it be worse? Can it get any worse?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I mean,
with
we
that.
could give up more points. Yes, I'm not saying that, but the defense pass yardage were 30th. There's only 2 slots to go, man. Try it. Just try it. Or at least mix them all in, kind of have a rotation. Bring Boykin in for some plays and let Gay move outside for some plays, for less plays for Blake. But I really feel like the more that guy's out there, the more he's getting exposed. I wasn't big on the guy coming into the year. Yes, he was playing well as the year proceeded, but now he's starting to get worse, and it scares me. We're going against some good passing offenses.
Yeah, but what Tomlin say, we're going to give those guys a chance to rebound.
That's about it.
So, whatever. If they put Boykin in the slot, Moncrief's going to shred him.
Kraft shredded
That's
cheese
it.
around here, man.
Moncrief is going to shred Boykin and put cheese on it.
Real quick, Matt Hasselbeck, he's 4-0 like we mentioned before. Who he beat? Jacksonville, Houston, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay. I think the Steelers are a much better team than all these teams out there. So does he have it in him to go out there? If he goes out there and beats the Steelers, then this team's for real. And this is a huge game. Indianapolis is 6-5, sitting at the top of their division. Houston 6-5, right behind them. And obviously the Steelers on the outside looking in right now. This is a huge game for them as well. So this is a big game for both teams.
It's got big playoff implications. We need the Colts and the Texans to keep losing. We would like the Chiefs to lose too. And these are all conference games for the Steelers. Yeah, they need to win conference games. So they need these victories. And you can't let a chance like this slip through your fingers. The Colts are not an overly dominant team right now. You have them at home. If your starting quarterback is healthy, you have no excuse to lose this game. As far as the roster is concerned, you are not worse than the Colts. I feel like our roster is better than Indianapolis is right now, especially with Luck being out. So this would be an upset, I feel like, if Indy came in and won this football game by any more than, maybe a fluke play or, maybe Hasselbeck does play well and they can pull it out by field goal.
Can't put it past Tomlin and Haley, man.
I mean, the Steelers could lose the game easily, yes. I just don't think the Colts would be able to put together a performance to beat us if we put together a solid performance.
Maybe D'Angelo Williams will fumble at the 1-yard line and Big Ben will make a game-saving tackle.
That'd be sweet. As long as we win, I don't care how it happens.
Or maybe Matt Hasselbeck will throw a deep ball, a Hail Mary at the end of the game.
Score.
If we get beat on a Hail Mary at the end of the game, we've just got shredded.
Nah, he can't throw a Hail Mary.
Who was that
only
almost
throw
beat the
40
Steelers?
yards.
That was Harbaugh, right?
Yeah, it was Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Don't speak of it.
Wow, he's a bum. They
He was
lost,
garbage.
right? They lost
Yeah,
that
they lost,
game.
but it
Yeah,
was
they
garbage.
lost. Then we lost to the Cowboys.
Correct.
Well, Dash, what's your key to victory for this week?
Well, just based off last week, I'm going to go with your key to victory from last week, and it's run the ball. Run the ball this time. Because if not, Indianapolis is going to take advantage of those mistakes you made last week, and they'll probably come up with 6 interceptions in this game if you played like that.
This is a very cliche thing to say, but you got to win the turnover battle. We mentioned earlier the Colts are -5. That's 26 in the NFL. Yeah, a lot of that came from Andrew Luck early in the year, just kind of chucking the ball anywhere. The Steelers are +1 even after losing the turnover battle 4-0 last week. That's 13th in the NFL. The Steelers are 0-5 when they lose the turnover battle this year. They're 5-0 when they win the turnover battle, and they're 1-0 when they tie. So that's obvious sign that the Steelers don't have 2 dominant sides of the ball. So the defense has got to get the ball for Pittsburgh at least once. In the offense, any more than 1 turnover, and you're putting too much stress on this defense, I feel. So the offense has to stay consistent, not turn the ball over, and the defense has to get us 1 or 2 of them just so they can get off the field a little quicker and get some extra rest. Or at least, at the very, very least, the offense not turn the ball over, and the Steelers force a lot of 3-and-outs. But I really feel like they have to win the turnover battle to win this game.
I mean, yeah, we seen it last week. They forced a ton of 3-and-outs last week, actually, and they just couldn't win that turnover battle.
Yeah. And I mean, third down hurt them last week, too. You can't, 3rd and longs. I mean, when you let up a 3rd and 6, yeah, it sucks. But I mean, 3rd and 6 against Russell Wilson, he's a good quarterback. That's a good offense. But when you're giving up 3rd and 16s and 3rd and 10s for touchdowns, that's where it really stings.
Easy?
No fake field goals.
No, I'm down.
I think that's the best key to victory out of any of them.
Yeah, I mean, that was 10
If
points
Landry
right there.
Jones
10 points
touches
swing.
the football, we lose the game. So just keep the ball out of that guy's hands.
What do you think about 2-point conversions? Do you still keep going for them? It cost them a little bit last week. If they'd have just kicked extra points, even one, they'd have had a chance at the end of the game there to score. And if they would have went for kicked 2 extra points, they would have just needed an extra point. If they'd have kicked 1, they'd have needed to go for 2 there at the end to tie the game. But instead, you got Landry Jones just heaving the ball in the air, down 9 points.
I don't mind it. I like it. I like the aggressiveness. I'm pretty sure the Steelers have tied an NFL record for the most 2-point conversions in a season already this year. We're pretty much the only team that's using that to our advantage, although I don't see it as much of a new advantage. It's always only been 2 yards. So really, it's just harder to kick the extra point. It's not easier to get a 2-point conversion. But the Pittsburgh Steelers feel they have the matchups to do it, and they feel they have the quarterback to do it, and Tomlin trusts Roethlisberger. I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. I know it did kind of cost us a little bit, but that was the least of my worries last week, the 2-point conversion. If all the other things didn't happen, we still win that football game.
What's your prediction? Not game prediction. What's your ridiculous prediction?
Oh, my
this week?
ridiculous prediction? Okay, here we go. Jacoby Jones makes a play in the passing game.
What?
Yep.
Nice.
That is ridiculous.
Darius Hayward-Bay is going to roll his ankle, okay, and he's going to be out for the rest of the game, and they're going to have to put Jacoby Jones in. He's going to get like a big 3rd down pass down the sideline.
I like it.
That's it. Ridiculous prediction of the week. What's your game prediction, Dash?
I'm going to say the Steelers go out there and handle this game pretty easily. I think Matt Hasselbeck has the worst game of the season for him. And the Steelers offense has 30 points in this game and makes it look good, unlike they did last week. And they're going to go out there and win this 32-21.
I think the Steelers defense is a little pissed off after last week. They kind of got embarrassed, and not their own fault. They were on the field, whatever. We already went over all that. But I don't think they're going to come out and let up this many points again this week, especially not at home. Matt Hasselbeck is not the quarterback that Russell Wilson is. They don't have the weapons as far as the up-the-middle threat with the tight ends. Dwayne Allen, Coby Fleener could have a big game for them, but not necessarily a big game like Jimmy Graham was having. I think Pittsburgh comes out, wins this game easily. The defense gets a few turnovers. I think you see the Steelers score 40 to 45 points, and the Colts might get some garbage time touchdowns, but I'm going to say 42 to 24 Pittsburgh.
Any defensive touchdowns?
Yeah, they might sneak a defensive touchdown in there. I mean, hell, if Jacoby Jones is catching a pass, why can't the defense score?
Easy.
What's the line in this game? Do you have an idea at all?
It was -6 to Pittsburgh last I seen.
So we're giving them less than a touch, huh?
Last I seen, that was right after Sunday. They usually change a little bit.
Well, I'll say 30 to 20 Pittsburgh.
30 to 20. So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I like it.
Is
it going to be a close game until the end? Is it going to be like 23-20 and then Pittsburgh scores and that pretty much ends it?
That's it. Because it's gonna be close. There's no doubt about it. I mean, not one game of the rest of the year are we gonna blow a team out at all.
I mean, got
and
some tough games.
It's gonna come down to the last freaking possession
Browns.
every game.
They got Austin Davis at quarterback.
And you remember,
we might smoke the Browns. That's it.
You remember when we did the schedule at the beginning of the season too? The Pittsburgh Steelers always win the last week of the season.
Almost, especially when it's the Browns.
Yeah.
They're garbage. Anything else for the fans?
Not that I can think of, man.
Anything you guys can think of, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Keep checking out our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Check out the YouTube page at youtube.com/betthespread. Click subscribe. Here we go, Steelers. The playoffs start today.